Andrew Webster joins us here on the couch. Webby, it has been quite a week for New South Wales as we count down to the State of Origin. We can see there are 24 days to go until Game 1. New South Wales at the moment, they're in all sorts in terms of the injury front. We saw Tom Trbojevic go down, but news this morning that you've got about Nathan Cleary. Yeah, I spoke to Ivan Cleary this morning. It's they're not putting a definite timeline on it, but they're saying, actually just comparing it, saying it's the same as Turbo. So that's a grade 2 and they're talking 6 to 8 weeks, which effectively rules him out of the Origin series, which is a big blow.
The Origin series, I think nine weeks from today would be the last game.
Yeah.
So you'd be pretty, well, Billy, he's in amongst this right at the moment, the mindset of coaches. But
you think you'd have to play at least a game or two before the Origin was selected. So I think it almost, for 8 weeks, I think almost rules him out of the series. I'm with you.
I spoke to Michael Maguire as well this morning. He wasn't in the fetal position. He was quite philosophical about what needs to be done. This next man up ethos is that he's trying to put into the New South Wales team. So I think New South Wales have got options in the halves, but it's probably looking more like Moses and Nicho Hynes. Whether that's the case or not, we'll see when the team's selected in 2 weeks.
The fact that he has had this hamstring problem over the season already, do you think that is also something that would probably weigh into the fact that you'd rule him out for the entire series?
Oh, look, they'll wait up and see how he goes. The thing about hamstrings, you can't ever quite test them totally at training. You can't ever replicate what happens in a game, the reaction times in a game, what you're thinking in a game. At training, you point to players, do this, do that, and they test it as much as they can, but you can't ever replicate what happens on the field. So I think they'll be cautious with this time, being the Penrith Panthers too. Look, they're obviously going for their 5th straight grand final, hopefully 4 in a row for them, but I think they'll be a little bit more precautious with it because he did hurt it just a month ago and he's done it again.
So where does this leave New South Wales and their chances now? With Cleary out, Tom Trbojevic out as well, what do you think this does for the Blues?
Oh, look, I agree with Maguire. It's an next man up mentality. Whoever gets their shot's got to go and grab with both hands and go there and play. We can't be worried about who's not there. We've got to be worried about who is there and who can get there and do the job. I mean, Queensland are going to pick a side. They've done it year after year. They just pick whoever can get there. They pick the best 17 players they can, put them in the team, then you go out there and do the job. And that's what the Blues have to do. That's a mentality they've got to have.
What's it like when you're a coach and your big playmaker goes down?
Well, like I always say, mate, you can't pick your team. You've still got 2 weeks to go.
Pencil, not pen.
So there's, you've got today's games and then 2 more weeks. And if you look at the last 2 weeks, the carnage that's gone on, then that could happen for the next 2 weeks. So, the big thing what makes great Origin plays is great club players, players who play great for their club every week, put their heart on the line every week. They play with injuries every week, so they put themselves under pressure. If you look at the blokes who got hurt for New South Wales, Nathan and Turbo, you look at the way they play, they're wholehearted every game. Like Nathan, you watch what he did in the first half, like chase down Josh Adokar, saving tries, the work he does, and then whatever reason it goes again, and Turbo is the same, coming across, trying to save a try. So, and there's hosts of players like that in every team that are on the border of being picked. So I won't be picking my team just yet.
So Mitchell Moses, he's due to return from that broken foot this coming week. Do you agree that that's the best combination going forward, Nicho Hynes and Mitch Moses?
I'm not sure why you look at it.
I was about to say, why are we asking Billy a question?
I feel really awkward sitting right here.
I think when you look at Game 3 last year, the Blues won that. Moses in the team. I think you've probably got to consider him. He's got to come into the chat, but he hasn't played for a number of weeks. He's got to get back and play some good footy and show that he's ready for it. Nicho Hynes obviously been playing good all year, didn't play on the weekend, but from what I understand, he will be probably okay next week, so he's not a long-term injury. There's no issues with his injury going forward. Then you've got Jerome Luai. He's been there before, done it before. Look, a player for me I would have liked to have seen come back is Jack White, and I just love how big and strong he is and physically can be, and to me he's a type of player Michael Maguire would like, but...
Who would you have him in the halves
I was at that
with?
game yesterday, and he probably wasn't quite there for me that game. He was playing in the centres, so I don't know whether he's going to come back. But look, for me at the moment, if Mitchell Moses comes back and plays well, I'd go Mitchell Moses and Nicho Hynes. But I'm 100% with Freddie. Don't pick your team at the moment. We're 100% footy last week. We picked our team. I picked my back line. 3 players I picked in the back line got hurt this weekend. So I won't be doing that again.
Is there anything more to this, Bill? We're seeing this year so many players get injured and they are the biggest name players in our competition.
Yeah, well, I've been thinking why there was a Pacific Nations tournament at the end of the year, but then I thought, well, I didn't do a pre-season for 7 or 8 years there straight, and I didn't have any issues with that. So yeah, I don't know. You can look too much into it sometimes. We might just be having a bad run, but there is a huge list of stars on the sideline at the moment, and with all this going on, the first thing I feel for is the player, because I've been that player. Missing out on seasons, missing out on Origin series, missing out on playing footy with which is what you want to do, because you put everything into it. These players are all in for their careers. You have a look at Nathan Cleary and how much work he has done to get his game to where it is now. Talking to Tino, talking to Tom Gilbert, talking to Kalen Ponga after their series has been wiped. It's a tough conversation, and you can feel the hurt and the disappointment in their voice. So, that's the first thing that I feel for, is the player. Secondly, as a coach, you've got to put your energy and your focus into who is there. And we don't know who's there yet. They'll have different strengths to the players who aren't there. And that's where my energy goes. Whether it's Queensland's team or whether it's New South Wales, my energy will be going to who is there and who's not there.
A few blokes on the sideline at the moment, Billy. Hamaso is one of them. What's the latest on his injury?
Yeah, well, there's 3 Queenslanders nursing hamstrings. You got Hamaso, Xavier, and Murray Taulagi as well. So, there's 3 Queenslanders trying to get back. By all reports, I think they're all due back next week. But as we've seen with hamstrings this year, anything could happen. Kurt Capel's got a calf injury, so you've just got to monitor and watch all players, and make sure that you're on top of all players, and when it comes time to build Queensland's best team, you do your duty there.
Yeah, they all seem to be soft tissue injuries, hamstrings and calves. Most of them. Do you reckon there's anything to do with the quicker
speed of the game?
I know
who knows?
Yep, but they all, like coaches I talk to,
it's as
they
professional as ever.
Why,
but it is as professional as ever. The recovery, the way that these players prepare and are conditioned for the game, it is as professional as ever. So I don't know.
These pre-seasons they do, like I've watched since I've retired, been to multiple pre-seasons at the Sharks, and they just squeeze in a little bit more out of every player every single year. They run fast, they run hard, they run for longer. So at the end of the day, they're humans. At some stage it's going to break. But I love a philosophy Freddie put in place before the show. We don't see animals tearing hammies.
Animals don't do hammies, and then like what you talk about is the stress on the other side of what they're doing at training. They're trying to get better, trying to do this, living up to expectations, got families, children, there's a whole lot going on, and, whether it's, wearing out of the muscles or it's just, playing tight and not having that flexibility that, you might have if you weren't under stress or pressure.
So you're thinking stress has a fair...
Oh, of course it has a lot to do with a lot of injuries, without doubt. Just, what it's like when you're under pressure, your neck gets tighter and straight away your whole body gets tighter. But I was looking at the injuries between Nathan. I was trying to chase up Hammers. I didn't get to Hammers and Turbos, and they're on the back end of real long sequences of play without tries. Maybe looking into, if there's no stoppages at those 20-minute marks, or, maybe... it'd be interesting what data shows that, maybe resting, can we get fuel into them, or is it really, will that work against them?
We've just created the game where there's no stoppage. We're trying to create the fatigue in the game.
But in speaking to some coaches, I was speaking to some coaches from the Broncos before the game, and they were going, their reasoning was, are we getting the game too fast? Is it, we now need to sort of try to make it so entertaining. Is it becoming too fast? So, I think it's not tinkering with the game. It's allowing the game to be itself, but it's also working out, are we pushing our sport pushes you pretty hard compared to most sports. Like you're going flat out for 40 minutes. Sometimes if there's no tries, your biggest break's going to be, you got 30 seconds for scrum, you got 20 odd seconds for a dropout. Like you are going hard, and it is, maybe. I think we'll all find out in the future once we get all the data and information, because one thing the game's doing really well is collecting all that, and that's the only way we can learn.
They'll be on top of it.
Yeah.
Well, fingers crossed we see no more Origin injuries as we count down to June 5. We can't wait for that. And, of course, it's all exclusive, live and free right here on Nine's Wide World of Sports.